everybody. Welcome to Life Science Live. My name is Robin. I'm super excited to be here with you guys today. Today's going to be a pretty cool day. We're going to be talking about the desert and desert adaptations. So as usual, if you have any questions or any comments or anything that you want to say, you can go ahead and type it into the comments box, and then I will try and answer any of the questions that I can or look at all the comments, and you guys just feel free to say whatever you want, and it'll be a lot of fun. So this will be great. So like I said earlier, we'll be talking about deserts and different types of adaptations that organisms in the deserts have to help them survive in those environments. So when I ask you to think of a desert, you probably think of a really sandy place, right? With cactuses maybe and those different kinds of things. And that's not actually what all deserts look like. By definition, a desert is any ecosystem that gets less than 10 inches of rainwater a year. So by that definition, there are deserts on every single continent, including Antarctica, because there are some areas in Antarctica that don't get 10 inches of rainfall a year, or 10 inches of precipitation a year. So even Antarctica has deserts. There is 1/5 of the landmass on Earth is covered in deserts. So there's a really big deal. It's so much of what our Earth is covered in is deserts. And in Utah, we have lots of areas that get less than 10 inches of rainwater a year. So even here in Utah, we have a lot of desert lands. And so we have lots of desert animals, even in our own backyard. So the first animal that we're going to talk about today is a desert animal that is found in some parts of Utah. So this is a desert tortoise. And desert tortoises are found in the southwestern corner of Utah. And they go all the way down to the Sonoran Desert. So they're in a lot of Arizona and that area. So desert tortoises have some really cool adaptations that help them to be able to survive the harsh conditions that are in the desert. One of the cool adaptations that desert tortoises have, is they can hold up to 40% of their white in their bladder full of water. So they can retain lots and lots of water in their bladders, and they can keep it there for a really, really long time. Because water can be really hard to come by in the desert, they don't have to travel very far or very long to be able to find new water constantly. They can keep it in their bodies and kind of keep reusing it. It's really important that when you see a desert tortoise in the wild that you don't touch it, because one of their defense mechanisms is to release all of the water in their bodies. And when they do that, they are letting go of their water supply and they have to build it back up, and that can be really dangerous to them, and it can make it so that they can't survive very easily if they lose that water. So it's very important to leave these animals alone. They are endangered in Utah, so it's very important that we don't touch them so that we can help keep them living and keep them around. Desert tortoises are omnivorous, or no, they're herbivores. I'm so sorry, they're herbivores, meaning that they only eat plants. So they eat lots of herbs, and they are known to eat cactuses, or cacti. And maybe you can picture what a cacti looks like. Maybe you've seen them before. Cacti have lots of water in them. They retain lots of water. So maybe think to yourself, why would cacti be a good snack for an organism living in the desert to eat? You can think to yourself. You can type the answer in the comments if you think you know it. Give you a second to think. So the reason that cacti are a really good snack to eat in the desert is because they are so full of water. They double as both a snack and a drink. So they can get their water source from the cacti and from the food that they eat. So desert tortoises are so cool. One other thing that is a really cool adaptation that they have is they burrow into the sides of hills and into the ground. And that burrowing allows them to get deeper into the environment where it's a lot cooler. So they live in those kind of burrows to help retain their heat, to retain their water, and so they're not out in the heat all the time. So burrowing is a really common adaptation that animals have when they live in the deserts. So we're going to talk about another animal that likes to burrow. Let's see, just one second. All right, so this right here is my friend Belle. And Belle is a Chilean rosy hair tarantula. And so like the desert tortoises, the tarantulas like to build burrows in the desert to be able to stay cool. So this kind of tarantula is found in South America. They like to live in the deserts and in the scrublands of South America. And like I said earlier, the burrowing helps to keep them cool. And that's also how they hunt for their prey. They will go down in their burrows, and they have really sensitive feet, so they can sense the vibrations of animals and also insects moving above them. So they can tell when they have some prey walking by, they can jump out of their burrow and snatch it up and they can eat it that way. Chilean rose-haired tarantulas also have this really cool trick for defending themselves against predators. When they feel threatened, they can rub their back legs together and loosen up some of the hairs on their legs, and then they can fling them at their predators. And that can stick to the predators, and they get really itchy and really uncomfortable, and it will sometimes scare their predators away. So that's how they defend themselves. They like to eat different kinds of bugs, and will sometimes even eat really, really small organisms or small mammals like mice and stuff if they can get a hold of them. So the female rosy-haired tarantulas can live to be up to 20 to 25 years, so they can be really, really old for a spider, which is super cool. And spiders are super helpful because they help keep down bug populations, and that helps us so that we don't get overwhelmed with all those pesky bugs that we can sometimes get bothered by. So spiders are super, super cool. Another adaptation that they have is they are nocturnal. Nocturnal means that they come out at night. So they sleep during the day and they come out at the night. And that's the opposite of what we as humans do. We sleep during the night and then we come out at day. So that means that we are diurnal. But nocturnal means that they come out at night. Maybe think to yourself, why do you think it would be beneficial for desert animals to come out at night? Why do you think they'd sleep during the day? And the answer to that is because it's much, much cooler at night when the sun isn't beating down constantly on them. And so they don't lose as much water when they hide in their burrows during the day, and they sleep during the day, and they come out at night when it's much, much cooler, so they don't have to worry about all of the heat of the day. All right, and remember, as usual, if you have any questions or anything you want to say, you can go ahead and comment it. But if there are no more questions about Belle, I'm going to go ahead and put her away. All right, so we talked about how lots of the animals that live in the deserts are nocturnal, so they come out at night. And so we're going to talk about another kind of animal that is nocturnal. And this is a coyote. And coyotes are often found in desert environments. Not all the time, they can live other places as well, but the deserts are one place that they do like to live. And they are nocturnal, so they come out and they hunt at night. And that's helpful because, like we were talking about earlier, because it's much cooler in the night. And also because a lot of their preys are out during the nighttime, so they're able to find a lot more things to hunt at night. And I'll show you his back here. You see how it's kind of a dusty brown color. A lot of the coyotes that live in the desert lands have similar coloring to their environment, so they're able to blend in really easily, so they can sneak up on their prey without being seen. And coyotes are omnivorous, so they eat both meat and plants. They've been known to eat cactus fruit, and we talked about how cacti are a good source of both food and water. And they also eat meat, so they go hunting at night. So we'll talk about one of the things that the coyotes like to hunt. They will sometimes hunt these lizards. This is a Gila monster, and these are found in the Sonoran Desert. And so this lizard has some really cool adaptations that help it to survive in the desert as well. One cool thing is it has a really acute sense of smell. So Gila monsters will eat eggs of other animals in the desert, and they are able to smell eggs that are buried as deep as 6 inches underneath the sand. So that's a really, really good sense of smell. Another cool thing is that they have adapted it. They don't have to eat very often. In the wild, some Gila monsters are known to only eat 5 to 10 times a year. And that's because they can eat up to 30% of their body weight at one time in one meal. So they're able to hold themselves over with that. Maybe think to yourself for a minute, why would it be helpful to only have to eat a few times a year? And the answer to that is that because food isn't very plentiful all the time, and so they're able to hold themselves over. If they aren't able to find food for a really long time, they can just wait until the next time. They're able to use their food storage that they have from the last meal that they ate. All right, so we talked about a lot of different types of animals that are found in the desert, and so now let's take a minute and we're going to talk about some of the different types of plants that we can find. All right, so this is a really cool plant that is found in Africa. It's found in some of the really dry places of southwestern Africa. It is called Senecio rullianus, but it is more commonly known as a string of pearls or a string of peas. And this is a really, really popular houseplant. So you might have seen it around, or you might even have one in your house, but it's naturally found in Africa. And this type of plant usually grows in the shade, so it'll usually be found behind rocks or behind really big plants or maybe on a hill. They like to grow in the shade because in the shade it doesn't have the direct sunlight beating down on it, so the water doesn't evaporate as far or as hard off of the plant. And you'll see it gets the name string of pearls because it has these circular little balls on the stems. And those little circular round things are modified leaves. And these leaves are modified so that they have the best water storage. So they're able to keep lots of water stored up inside their little leaves there. The leaves have a really cool adaptation that they are the shape that they are, and they are the way that they are, so that there is the most storage with the least amount of surface area for water to evaporate off of. So that's good for water storage, but it presents another problem because plants get their energy from the sun using photosynthesis. So they have less exposure to the sun, so they have less evaporation, but they have less of an opportunity to get sunlight to use it for photosynthesis to make their food. So because of that, they have a cool adaptation to combat that. And I'm going to try and show it on the camera. It might be kind of hard to see. But you might see on some of them there's a clear stripe on the side. Maybe you can see in this one right here that I'm trying to point to. There's a clear stripe on the side. And why do you think having a kind of a clear stripe or a little window would be helpful in photosynthesis? The reason it's so helpful is because it acts as like a little window and letting more sunlight through. And so even though it gets less sunlight than it needs, it's able to really use that sunlight that it gets with that little window. It lets in more sunlight into the inside, so it's able to spread the sunlight around, so it's able to use all of it to do photosynthesis. And so string of pearls is a type of succulent. And succulent is a word meaning any type of plant that has adaptations to store water in its leaves, stems, or roots. And so this succulent, even though it's a desert plant, it isn't a cactus. A cactus is a type of succulent though. So we're going to talk about what the difference between a cactus and a succulent is. So all cacti are succulents, but not all succulents are cacti. For a plant to be considered a cacti, it has to have something called an areole. So if you'll see on this cacti right here, those kind of white spots that the spines are coming out of, that is called an areole. So areoles are where the spines protrude from, and they're always white, and they kind of have, sometimes they'll have a little hair type substance on them. And so that's one of the differences that you can tell them apart. And sometimes succulents like the string of pearls, or maybe you've seen an aloe vera or different kinds of succulents, they will have spikes on them, but they don't protrude out of the white area of the areole. So even though succulents can have spikes sometimes, they aren't cacti unless they have the areole. And another difference between cacti and succulents is that a lot of times succulents will have leaves, some sort of leaf. So we saw that on the string of pearls, the little round things there, those are the leaves on it, and we don't see any of that on this cacti here. So that is one of the differences between the cacti and the succulents. So as you can see, a lot of the organisms and a lot of the different types of animals and plants that live in the deserts have some really cool adaptations that help them to be able to live there and to be the way that they are. So thank you guys so much for watching. That's all I have for you today on learning about deserts. Be sure to watch tomorrow, and we'll have discovery reading, and we can learn about a lot more cool animals and be able to learn more about the world around us. So thanks you guys so much for watching. Bye.